Please welcome to the stage Amy Pace and Laura Gibbons.
AI's in the classroom changing minds. Every student, every time. Administrators watch and cheer. Future's bright. The change is here.
Well, welcome to the last session in the big room for the USET conference. We are so excited to be here. Today, we are going to be talking about AI in education, transforming teaching, learning, and school operations. This is Laura Gibbons. She can introduce herself and we'll go from there.
Hello everyone, it's so good to be with you here in the 11th hour of USET. We hope that we are able to provide some valuable information for you, or maybe just some insights to help you in your journey as you're helping your students. Just to tell you a little bit about myself, so you can know when we're speaking what context I bring to the table. I've been an educator for lots and lots of years. If I should have brought a prop, which would have been my reader glasses on my head. But since I knew I wasn't going to need close-up, I didn't do that. But I have been an educator for a lot of years in the science discipline, the STEM classrooms, spent a lot of time with middle schoolers, some time with the high school age too, and most recently I served as a STEM ambassador for the Department of Defense. And in those capacities, I was able to really hone in a few things on valuable experiences for our students. And I think more than anything today, our hope, our collective hope, is that we can share something, even if it's just one idea, something that's going to spark curiosity in your students and allow them a venue to do some pondering, some sense making, and be able to really grow from that experience. So that's a little bit about me.
My name is Amy Pace. I work for the State Charter School Board. I'm their Strategic Growth and Innovation Specialist. And like Laura, I have been in education for a really long time, more than 20 years. And in my time as a teacher, working both in the classroom for an online school and then as an administrator, the thing that I could see is that teachers spend a lot of time doing things that don't affect their actual teaching. So my lens on this is, what can I do to streamline processes and make things run smoother and more efficiently for you as a teacher and for your students, so that everybody can spend more time learning and less time doing the paperwork and doing the things.
So we wanted to start with a quote. This is from a famous astronomer, physicist, Carl Sagan. But somewhere, something incredible is waiting to be known. We truly hope that that is how we can, that is the lens we can give our students. I failed to mention I'm an instructor, a technical instructor for Utah Education Network. So that's my current capacity. And in that capacity, I get the chance to visit with many, many teachers across the state. And it is with you that we're going to see this. A little moment of time where the something that we don't know, but we're gonna find out.
Okay, so I want to expand a little bit more on our teaching journey. When I started teaching in a little tiny high school in the middle of the state with a chalkboard and my overhead projector and a classroom set of textbooks that were somewhere between 15 and 20 years old, I thought, I'm not really sure this is what I signed up for. But you know, we give it a go, and as time went on and as my learning went on, it changed who I was as a teacher. I became a much better teacher, I think, and was able to connect with my students a lot more. Technology plays a part in that, but it's not necessarily the only thing that's important in making you a better teacher.
And then as far as my teaching journey, we really loved this image because it shows like this light passing through and kind of something really super, it indicates speed, I guess, you know. And with that we felt like that's kind of what we've been propelled in. Even more these last several years as we've started to integrate some of the technologies that are available. Even more it seems to happen more and more to keep up with what's going on in education, to be able to understand the new and innovative things is tough. And especially when you're our age. And some of you are, and others aren't. Some of you are really young. But as Amy said, you know, when we started with chalk. And if any of you are in that age category, you remember that feel. Okay, I can just do this and you'll know what I'm talking about. You remember what it felt like to be up against the board, the dusties, the whole 9 yards, the marker from doing your overhead slides. All of that was something super normal and the technology seemed fantastic. But now as we move into this AI era, this era of new education, of finding ways to help our students innovate in ways they haven't before, we can feel like it's moving fast. So our hope today is that you'll feel not like it's moving so fast, but that you'll feel empowered to try something new, maybe something that's waiting to be known.
All right, so our time today, we are going to spend a little bit of time on the Utah State Board of Education AI framework. This is a really nice place to start when we're thinking about how we're going to integrate AI into our classrooms or into our schools. We are also going to talk about some AI in practice, AI for students, teachers, and administrators, and then finally, hopefully we'll have some time at the end for questions and answers and to go over a couple of extra resources. So the first thing that we are going to talk about, and I have my copy right here, is the USBE AI framework. And this is a document that you can find on the USB website. This document has all of the things that you need to know as you are starting into or tackling the journey of adding AI into your classroom or your school. It's a really balanced approach that encompasses both information for teachers, for students, and for parents or community stakeholders to make sure that the needs are being met of everybody. The biggest thing that I think is, or the most important thing, are these 7 guiding principles that apply to both teachers, administrators, or to students. The first thing is that we want to use AI to help our students achieve their educational goals. So the education part is really important. It's not for fun, it's not for wasting class time. It's really a place to focus on student education. We also want to reaffirm that we are going to adhere to existing or new policies and regulations as they come out. That's one of the things that you can find in the framework. Turn the page here. Is a list of all of the policies and the board rule that you need to adhere to. It's a nice place to refer back to if you have any questions. We also are going to educate our staff and our students about AI. This is really important because students have one perception of what AI is, but we need to show them how it works best in education. We'll look at opportunities and risks, talk about academic integrity, how we want to commit to auditing or to maintaining good teacher use, and then committing to auditing and monitoring how we're using the AI. And then is it working for us, the teacher? Is it working for our students? Are there changes we need to make? Just being cognizant that it's an ever-changing technology that we're going to have to continue to keep up with.
And what I love about having a framework is that it gives us a place to refer back to. So I think, as going forward, if there's questions, if there's things we're not sure about, it's a great place to refer back to and say, you know what, that's somewhere where I'm gonna go and I'm gonna get some information. It's a starting point. And I have been working recently with a group of educators on the national scene. And as I've prepared, to present at a national conference, what I've noticed with the educator who I'm co-presenting with is that other states don't have that framework. And so I think here in Utah, it's a unique thing that we have that maybe we don't even know we have it, but now you know. Now it's on your radar. But it's a place to refer to, and it has been well vetted and thought through. So Okay, let's talk for a minute about generative AI. This is the new. You know, for a lot of years, AI has been used. It's not a new technology in that sense. That there have been applications of the use, Siri, different voice to text things, ways that we've used artificial intelligence in a very regimented way. Generative AI is taking that artificial intelligence, and it's now the artificial intelligence is generating data, is generating language, is generating text, is generating images based on data that it's been fed. And we have here a few of the different types of generative AI that you may be familiar with between Gemini, ChatGPT, Perplexity, Claude, Microsoft Copilot. There's a number of them out there and available, and you may have actually experimented with quite a few of them. Many of you, like us, have really increased your ability to communicate well in an email, thanks to generative AI. And so we wanted to spend a moment today looking at some of the things that generative AI has created. And because this is a forum, a place where we can sit and listen and watch, we didn't want to give you a bunch of text, and so we put AI to work with some images. And so we're going to move to the next one, and let's take a look. So these images were created in Adobe Express, the Firefly application, and the prompt that it was given was students using charts and graphs. Like that, can you create an image of students using charts and graphs? And if you were to look closely at these, we actually got rid of our circles that would have showed you exactly where to look, thinking we could really interact with you. But if you're to look in the center of the slide with the Superman guy and the girl, I hope you can tell which one is Superman there. Those of you who are my age would know that right off. But anyways, if you look at the girl and look at her face, it's kind of like mosaic. It's kind of a collage of images.
Yeah, she doesn't really have a nose. Or maybe she has a nose that looks like her ear. I'm really not sure what that is. So, first glance, it doesn't look terrible, but then as you start to analyze the picture a little bit more, not really sure what's going on.
What about the hand next to her? Do you see the hand? Like it's just like a random hand. I'm not sure. I'm sure it belonged to someone at some point. But there it is in our image, just our hand. Now if we go to our next image, Amy, what things do you notice? What are shouting out to you?
Well, the first thing I notice is I think there's supposed to be a person in the back next to that back chart, but I'm not really sure. It just kind of looks like some kind of ghost figure back there. Also, we ask for students. These might be college students, maybe. They seem a little old to be students. So that's another question that I would have.
You know, that brings up a really great point of if the prompt was simply for the AI to generate an image with students using charts and graphs, I left it completely up to the AI to determine who those students were. And so maybe PhD students in college or who, had a number of different images in there already. It is generating based on data it already has. And so maybe if I wanted younger students like Superman and Ariel over there, if I wanted younger students, then perhaps I needed to be a little more specific. And that brings us to a really important thing to remember with generative AI, and that is in the prompting, the more specific you are, the better the AI will respond. Also in prompting, if you are able to give it a persona, then also your AI is going to understand from what lens. I am a teacher and I need an image of students working in a middle school classroom ages 13 to 15, then I get a little more specific with my AI. Okay? I don't know what it would come up with. You guys go try that, okay? Try that prompt.
All right, we're going to move on to another image. These are images that were created using Gemini. And Gemini recently, within just the last little while, has been able to have the ability to create images. Again, Gemini is another one of those great large language models that collects data. But we put in the prompt for this one that we were looking for images of 2 women presenting at a conference. On first glance, they all seem okay. But look a little closer. Look at the picture in the middle. What do you see about the picture in the middle? Laura, do you want to point this one out? Because you caught it first.
She's multitasking. That came right out of here. She's multitasking by how? What do you see? 3 arms. Now, who didn't need an extra arm? I mean, any woman in here, any mom in here, it's like, give me that extra arm. I had twins. I mean, I could have really, really used that extra AI arm. But AI just generated it to multitask, to have one arm pointing to the graph and one pointing to the person that she's interacting with.
I did ask AI to fix her 3 arms, Gemini, when I was working on this, and it said it couldn't. It didn't know how to fix her arms. So definitely something to just keep in mind as you look. The other pictures turned out a little better. The classroom doesn't look like we're presenting at a conference, but at least it looks like fairly normal looking people. So, but one thing that you'll also notice is that it didn't do anything about determining the age. And I ask it for women. I guess those are women. Older women or younger women. But definitely something to be aware of when we're thinking about where is it getting its information and what is it using to generate the images.
Now, when you're generating images, there may be times you need a certain look. And the great thing about generating images on AI is that you have the chance to create something new and different, something that the artificial intelligence is creating based on the data it's already received. Now, this was the same image creation with the same prompt without telling the AI to make the images cartoon. And so the previous slide, you saw they were all very cartoony. This slide, when it didn't have any specificity to what type of image it was going to create, this is what it came up with. So these are the 2 people at a conference presenting. Now still, if you look deep, I mean, this picture would be equivalent to Amy and I having everyone like right here.
Looking the wrong way.
Giving us the side eye to boot. The side eye for our presentation. So still AI, you know, it's pulling together image ideas, it's pulling together based on the language and the images it's received, and this is what it comes out with. So,
and on our second picture, again, we have floating hands that don't necessarily belong to anybody, but more or less a pretty good picture, especially considering that Gemini has just started doing images. So our next activity that we're gonna have you guys try out is something called Quick Draw. We're gonna give you a little overview of Quick Draw first, and then we're gonna have a couple of minutes for people to try it out.
So Amy and I are, we mentioned we're science people. We kind of like data. It can show us a lot of things, and in this case, this Quick Draw shows us world's largest data set of images. So the game you can play on Quick Draw is that it will tell you a prompt like leaf, and then you spend a moment drawing out what you're trying to do. And if you see, that's how quick the AI is recognizing what you're trying to do. Okay.
This was me yesterday, working on, or the other day, not yesterday. Some of them are really easy, and some of them aren't as easy. And in 20 seconds, it goes by really quickly. So sometimes I wasn't able to complete the task. Sometimes it can tell really quickly, and I don't know how it knows what I'm drawing. But thinking back to the images that we were just looking at and talking about where is the AI getting the information? Well, it's places like this. So it tells you to draw things, and then it's going to compile a database of all of the things that you're drawing. And this was the last one, I think.
And so when you need a brain break, we just showed you a great way. Now, I want to draw back that, remember in our keynote, original speaker, he said you need 15 seconds for deep dive questions, to pause. AI's giving you 20, so there you go. All right, now moving on, we're going to show you the largest data set. And what we wanted to bring up here is maybe an application with students would be that you could show them how people see things differently, but also bias maybe. We picked on a soccer ball. Is it in the soccer ball right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a soccer ball. We chose a soccer ball because in other parts of the world, does anyone know what soccer is called? Football.
Football.
Yeah. But here, if the AI was asking you to draw a football, we would probably all draw it the way our American football looks, where outside of the US, if you asked to draw a football, you would get a soccer ball. Not a bug.
Not a
but
spider.
A soccer ball. Not a spider, not a spider. So what a great way to have conversations with students about, bias. Because AI, it knows what it's been fed. Okay, so there can be some bias.
It is pretty interesting to think this is one of the world's largest data sets too. Who knew? Doodles. Doodles could be considered a tool that is teaching AI how to function better.
We hope that when you have a minute, go to Quick Draw.
Check it out.
Just see what that data set's like. See how you do, and if you can beat her time in getting some of these pictures. All right, next we wanted to talk with you a little bit about ways that AI can be used from a teacher lens, and then ways that it can be used from a student lens. And mind you, we want to clarify that and let you know that this is not all encompassing. These are a few ideas. I will give credit to a colleague I work with. He does a lot of work, Braxton Thornley, with AI, and has spent a fair amount of time vetting a lot of the ways that teachers are using them and a lot of the ways that students are using them. And not only that, but really great ways that they can be used to enhance education, to create authentic learning opportunities for your students.
So when we think about teacher cases or teacher uses of AI, like I said, this is a place where AI can be used to really streamline your time, giving you more time to work with your students and less time to work on paperwork or things that the AI can do for you. Think about summarizing texts. Think about if you have a student who maybe isn't a good reader. We've had a lot of conversations here at the conference about MLL students, things like that, where you can summarize a piece of text to help somebody better understand what it is that they've been reading or that we're talking about in class. It's also great for generating emails, those sorts of things. I think we've all probably done that. Remembering that we still need to be, the human in the room and make sure that, it's a good place to start, but I would never, ever encourage teachers or administrators to strictly generate emails from their AI. It's also a great place to get guided notes and lesson outlines. Many of us have been in Zoom rooms where you can see something that'll pop up and say, notes are being taken by, and it'll be a different form of AI. That's a great use of AI for teachers. You can have lessons going or lessons recorded and then get the notes taken by AI so that students can review over the notes, if there's things you need to catch. Also just generating instructions or making predictions about data sets. Now, data sets is a really important thing to think about as a teacher use of AI, because we always want to be aware of PII. We can't put any of our students' names or their information into our AI, even if we want to generate, it might generate great reports about grades or things like that, but we would never want to use student names to do that.
Yeah. And then as for student use cases, what a great way to use AI to do some role playing. To be able to have, we clarified how old we are. So we remember the moments when you're trying to have the students play the parts of photosynthesis. You just need a carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. We need students to play a certain part. We have things, but they don't know what to say. How great to have AI with that, generating of ideas. Also, for it to be a feedback partner. I've heard a colleague speak of a way that he used AI in terms of feedback, and that was that originally the students, and this is an ELA guy, not a science guy, the students would write and then work in peer groups. Okay? The peer groups would generate feedback. And then from that feedback, they would then take their writing and put it into an AI, and then from there would be additional feedback. So then 2 sets of feedback, and to look at how that is, and then to adjust writing based on 2 sets of feedback. Feedback is a great place for students to use AI. A debate or thought partner. So oftentimes you just need to vet ideas. We work with a lot of STEM groups. We work with people who are trying to solve community problems. And one time, we had a group that wanted to address air quality. And here we are in Salt Lake City with nice sunny days, and the air quality is actually pretty good right now. Now, Amy, she's from Wayne County, and she doesn't deal with our air like we deal with our air. But we had a group of students who were like, we want to address air quality. And one of them, in 7th grade, proposed the idea of a very, very large fan to blow that air out of here. And how great would have it been to be able to have that conversation with AI, for her to ask, what would it take to be able to build a fan large enough to blow an inversion out of a valley? And AI may have already given her some ideas of ways that could have happened, or maybe that wasn't quite the idea she was looking for. So a debate or thought partner, great use of AI. And finally, as a support to complex projects, we oftentimes with our students want them to do a lot. We want them in deep learning. And sometimes that deep learning requires a lot of steps. And sometimes they're lost in the steps. And so allowing AI to be a partner in the organizational aspects is a great way for students to not get so overwhelmed and to use something in a really positive way.
All right, so we have a couple of questions here that we just want to post, just generally things to think about. Think about, how could AI help you with your curriculum or your planning or your lesson design? And this would be really customized to, my kindergarten teacher, a biology teacher, a concurrent enrollment history teacher. There's lots of different applications, but the great thing about most of these large language models is that they have a wealth of information on lesson plans and a wealth of ideas. It's a great place to start.
The next one, should we just go to the next slide? I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to try something. In what ways can AI provide real-time tutoring and homework? And I've got this little timer. I'm going to give it 15 seconds for you guys to think about that. was 15 seconds. Did it feel long? Our keynote told us that generally teachers, after asking a question, give it about little over a second before requesting a response. So I hope that gave you time for you to resonate. When we're going through these questions, we really just want you at home, you who are here with us, to really just have a moment to think, like, in what ways could AI provide that? Many of you may have districts or areas that are using an artificial intelligence that was, funded through your district. And so maybe you already have that employed, okay? Maybe there's different ways though. Maybe there's additional ways. Sometimes in education, we don't think long enough about the same question and how to stretch or change that. So that's what I kind of want you to think about now. Next one.
So professional development. AI has great tools and great opportunities for teachers with planning or being a part of professional development. That's something I work with a lot in my job. And as teachers, we know that there's things are changing always. So we always are needing professional development in order to stay up to date on what's happening in your district, in your school, or across the state or nation. Professional development is something that has to happen all the time. It's also how we can, maintain our license and stay current with what's happening. But sometimes there's so much information, it's really hard to sort through all of the things that you get, and it's really hard to catalog and then go back to the things that you learn. And we're gonna talk about a tool coming up that is part of AI that will help you with your professional development.
So now we want to go into AI in practice. I didn't even bring my phone up here. That's okay. We're going to describe what this particular tool does. But Gemini Live, if you haven't used it, it's a mobile app. So if you have the Gemini app on your phone, then when you open it, it will show a screenshot it will show you what you would normally see when you just open the web browser. And as I think about this, sometimes it works out this way. You're thinking, I should have put a screenshot in there. I'm hoping you can get it from my verbal explanation. But in the bottom right corner, there's a little icon that will give you the live. And the live allows you to interact with Gemini like a real person. And so if you were to say to Gemini, can you help me find, actually, should we go grab my phone?
Let me see if I've got it on mine.
Yeah.
I might.
Sorry, on the big stage, and here we are just like needing just a second. Okay, so once we go into live, we can say,
To go live, where you can explore complex topics or ideas.
we're gonna skip that. Okay, we're gonna just agree to all those
Great,
things.
let's get going. Here's one of the voices I have.
That sounds
You
great.
can always change my voice in settings later. Okay, I'm here whenever you're ready.
Could you give us a little introduction as to what would be a good way to start a conference on AI if you were presenting to a large number of people and the conference was being streamed live?
Okay, here's a way to start your AI conference with a bang. Imagine this. You're standing on stage in front of a massive crowd, and the whole world is watching the live stream. You could start by saying something like, artificial intelligence. It's no longer a futuristic concept. It's part of our everyday lives.
Okay,
Changing how we work.
can you make that just like a little smaller? Like, what would be a really good pitch line?
Sure thing. Here's a short and powerful way to start your conference. Artificial intelligence isn't the future anymore. It's our reality. Welcome to the frontier of...
Okay, there you heard it. Artificial intelligence is no longer the future. It's our reality. Okay, don't say I didn't get something from AI today, because we surely did. So Gemini Live is a way to interact and to brainstorm with something that you can interrupt and ask her to, to continue or to deepen that thought or to give you a little bit more or a little bit less. Just kind of a fun tool to play around with if you haven't yet.
One really great thing about Gemini as well is that they have signed some data privacy agreements with the state of Utah. So it's a little bit more safe. Still be careful about PII. You don't want to be giving out personal information, but it is a little more safe than some of the others. All right, so the next one we want to talk about is Notebook LM, and this is the one that I'm going to show you some applications for how you can use this to organize professional development and organize other things that you as a teacher do in your classroom.
And one little, you're going into
Oh,
the video.
yeah,
Can
you go
pause
ahead.
it or no?
Yeah.
Okay. One clarifying factor. Some of you may not have access to Notebook LM through your district's email. That is an administrative thing, and it changes between district and district. If you have a personal Gmail, this is a tool that is a 18 plus. So this is a teacher tool. This is an administrator tool. This is a tool to, to organize and to keep stuff. It is an experimental tool, but there are some applications that will make it very useful if you choose to use it as an organizational tool.
Okay, so as this plays, I'm just going to explain a little bit about how I use my Notebook LM. So in my role with the State Charter School Board, I do a lot of work with reports, and I have to know a lot of different things about policy. So I have one of my notebooks is talking about House Bill 301. This is the law that tells us about how charter schools have to run, but it's huge. So I have this loaded into my notebook, and then I can search for things and reference things that will only use that document or the documents that I've loaded into my notebook to do the searching. It can generate overviews and briefings and different kinds of guides that I can then use to, reference things. It gives references and it gives suggestions of the things that I'm looking for. I also used it to create a timeline. I had to load, there was probably 15 or 20 different articles and PDFs and websites, and then I used that to create a timeline, and it was able to search all of those different documents that I chose, so they were the ones I wanted to use to create the information that I needed. I knew that it was the sources that I wanted, not just somewhere on the internet, and it was doing the things that I specifically asked it to do. Other things that you can see on the screen here are just other articles I've loaded. I use this as a place to organize information and to be able to easily come back to it.
And if you haven't played around with it yet, there is an option to create an audio overview where there's two hosts. And if you've ever heard like old school AI voices, this is not that. This is a great interactive, very human-like voices that are going through and deep diving into the information that it's been fed. And then there's also a beta test where you can go in and actually join and be part of that podcast or that audio overview. And one of the unique ways that I heard a teacher who was saying that he was using this was he had a large volume of information that students needed to be responsible for, but it was kind of deeper information, but he just wanted surface level understanding. So he took the AI audio overview, which was roughly 12 minutes, fed it into another AI to generate study guide questions, and then the students were able to use guided notes as they listened to the audio overview of the very robust reading that he didn't want them to have to go through step by step or page by page.
All right, the next type of AI that we want to talk about is another aspect of Gemini. So you guys have heard a little bit about Gemini, and we know that it is good for working with students. It's a little bit safer as far as the large language model, but it also has a really cool feature where it can analyze data. Other ones can use it too, but this one is the one that I think is best, especially when working with students. So if we pull this up, the thing about Gemini and its ability to use data is that you can take a picture of the data. You don't have to input every single line of the data that you're using. So students can generate data maybe with a science experiment, or you can also find data. This is data I found about the climate of Bryce Canyon, and I asked it, I said, tell me some overview, or give me a rough analysis of this data. So it took it just a minute, and it gave me some key statistics. Now, if you saw the data set that I gave it, there wasn't a lot of information there really, so it couldn't come up with really detailed information. I then asked it if it could compare that same data set to data for the same location over the last 5 years. It wasn't able to do that, but it was able to give me some places where I could look for more data. I then fed in a much more robust data set and asked it for information to analyze that. As you can see, because there was more data, I was able to get a lot more analysis. And that's what these next slides show, all of the analysis that it gave me. A couple of things to think about is the data set. Like I said, the more robust your data set, the better analysis you're going to get. Also think about your prompt. This is the second time we've mentioned the prompt. The prompt is really important because it can't do what it doesn't know if it doesn't know what it wants you to do. And then my third question that goes along, or third point that goes along with the prompt is that if you didn't do what you wanted it to do, ask it again. Change your prompt, revise your prompt. If it gives you an answer and it's not the answer that you're hoping for, ask it some additional questions because it does learn from you just like it learns from all of the other places.
You may feel at times that AI is like your child, and it listens only so-so. But then maybe as you reflect on it, you weren't super specific with your AI. And in the specificity, it gets a little better about listening to what you want it to do. Here are some resources, the gemini.google.com, for ways that you can access Gemini and use that. Also, the next slide has the data set. We want to run an experiment. We're going to give you about 30 seconds on this one. If you take a picture of this data set and feed it into whatever large language model you want, that could be ChatGPT or Gemini or, this is very un-PII. As you can see, it's a temperature. It's a temperature data set. And so if you were to take this, feed this into your AI, and again, I'm going to give you 20 seconds now to do that. Those of you who are on before we move.
You'll also notice on this slide that there is catalog.data.gov/dataset. This is another place that you can go if taking a picture isn't working for you. These are free, available public data sets of all kinds of different things that you can use with your class if you want to practice running data or to try out to see how these large language models use will analyze data.
I mean, what a great way to get your students involved in the finding. I picture this science classroom, and here you've run this experiment and you know what happened. Now you're checking to see how AI does interpreting that data. And so if you notice this one, it's like weird. It's like the temperature's up on probe 1, then down, then up on probe 2, then down. Like, what's happening? And so test that out with AI. See what AI says. Let me give you the answer. The two probes were being switched between the hot and cold temperature places. And so that's what actually was happening. That's why the temperatures were fluctuating like they were with each probe. But see how AI does at interpreting that one.
All right, so the next thing that we want to talk about with data or with AI, is how we can use AI in differentiation. We know that we have students that come into our classrooms with all different kinds of experience, all different levels of learning, different languages that they use at home. There's a myriad of things that our students bring to our classrooms that we as teachers need to figure out how we're going to use what we have. How are we going to teach to the students that are in our classroom? We can't just stand up and talk and hope for the best. That's not going to be effective, and it's not going to reach our students. So AI is a great way to think about differentiation. One of the ways that we can do this easily is adjusting reading level. Nobody wants to be that kid in the class who can't read the text that you're talking about, especially this comes into play in like middle school and high school, when reading levels can vary greatly for students. Take your text, run it through your AI, ask them to bring it down a reading level, or you can even ask them to take it up a reading level for advanced students. It can also provide some scaffolding or some notes that can go along with your reading to help students stay on task and help make sure that they are getting out of the reading what you're hoping for.
Other ways, and we talked a little bit about bias, so bear in mind when looking for culturally relevant AI uses that you need to know keep the human in the loop is kind of a big deal. So when looking for culturally relevant uses, keep that human in the loop, and be aware of bias. Language learners, it is a really great translator. I speak another language and I have checked it on its translation abilities, and it does a mighty fine job. It is a language model, and I don't know actually how well it does it Chinese or Japanese, but for Latin-based languages, it does pretty well.
And the last place that we can think about using AI in differentiation is with our social and emotional aspects of our students. This also applies to working with other teachers in your building or in your district. The AI bot can do simulations to help make sure that what you intending your message to be is actually what the message is coming across as. So you can use it for scenarios. You can also use it to just like the same things we've talked about, check ideas, brainstorm, all of those kind of things. Always making sure that we want to safeguard our students and our colleagues' social and emotional well-being.
So now we want to show you a little bit of that in action. We had a group of students who were charged with, they wanted to address the community problem of students with learning disabilities. And within this group, there were 2 students who had IEPs and struggled with learning, and 2 students who didn't. And so together, they decided that they would create an app. What I'm showing you is brand spanking new, right off the press, right out of their little minds and into this presentation. But they wanted to come up with an app or a Chrome extension that would allow students who struggle to get aid they need without attention being called to the fact they needed help. And so in this, you start with the Brainiac Buddy. Here shows some of their early models of ideas that they had, and they wanted to be able to have it help with writing, with math, with reading, with brain, and then a brain break, a fun little activity. So we'll move to the next slide. And this is where, they demoed exactly how that may look if you need it to read to you a passage, or it could simplify a passage, or it could just summarize a passage. And all along, it can be you interacting with it while everyone else is reading the text. But you have the chance to, by your own self, adjust that. And these students were passionate about it being something that could happen, and that they were also passionate about it being a tool, not a crutch. And so they met with Matt Winters at the state AI office, or the USBE as the AI specialist. They met with people at UEN. They talked with Amy Pace, and they really, they talked about the fact they didn't want this to cheat for it. Then they went so far as talking to people at School AI and Skillstruck and other places where they could garner from them, like, how can we make this a tool that wouldn't be a cheating tool, but would be a tool that would help these learners who just might need the text reduced.
It's so exciting to think that our students, 7th grade students, are already thinking about AI in a way that they are going to take the AI and make it work for them. as older teachers, we are like, oh, this is hard. But as young students, they're already embracing the idea and thinking about how they're going to be able to use the AI to create AI that's going to work for them and for their classmates. So I think it's pretty great use of AI.
All right. Well, as we kind of finish up our time, we do want to spend a moment showing you some other resources that we've used. And know this is just the scratching of the surface. These are a few we've used. This is not all-encompassing. There are so many resources, and then those resources are changing all the time. So not only do you need to watch the resource, but you need to watch the updates and things that are changing as those resources get more and more refined and as the AI can do more and more. And so labs.google is a fun place to go. Again, we've talked about Google. Gemini does have the data privacy agreement. And so that's a fun one to go to if you want to just experiment. It is experimental in its nature.
The next one, Gamma, Canva, and Prezi. These are all resources to help you with presentations. In my job, I use Canva to do newsletters and to make flyers, to make advertising pieces, all those kind of things that I'm controlling, what I'm putting out, but it helps me with the creativity part. It definitely streamlines the process. And the same thing with Gamma and Prezi. They're both great presentation assisted software.
And then we've mentioned that we work with students. We work with students that do a lot of STEM type, innovative problem-solving projects, and oftentimes they don't know where to go for good research, peer-reviewed, scholarly information. And a couple of those are Elicit, Perplexity. I know Deep in Learning, OpenAI has one as well. There are a number, but those are a few that we've used.
The next section is just your regular large language models, Gemini, ChatGPT, and Copilot. Those are some that we use all the time. And this is where, you're refining ideas, maybe reviewing for tone in something that you've written, looking for, assistance with images, all kinds of different things.
And then Suno, if you listen to our entry song, that was made on Suno. Suno, if you pay for it, you have the rights. If you don't pay for it, they have the rights. So your idea made into music is theirs, although you can download it. But a place to make music using AI. And then the last one is CODAP, and that is just a consortium resource that helps with data analysis. And so because we've spent some time talking about data, we felt like we would throw that one in there. If you want to go and check out the CODAP the website, it's a data analysis tool.
Whisk is one of the things that you'll see on, what did I do? There we go. Whisk is one of the things that you'll see on Google Labs.
Yeah.
And it's just a really fun site where you upload a bunch of different pictures and then ask it to generate a combined or whisked image.
So we showed you here one that we did and what came up of it.
Yeah.
Labs.google, go there. It is a great fun place to find some innovative ways, for your students if they need a brain break, let them play with images.
All right, so we have one last thing we want to show you, and this is Project Astra. Let's see if it will play. Oh, no, back, maybe. I don't know how to make that one play.
Oh, maybe that one's not going to play. As it would go, there has to be something. But if you haven't checked out Project Astra, get on and do some looking. The intent of this was just to show you the AI, it's not going to go away. It's going to get better. It's going to become more refined. So where does that leave us in an educational setting, using it as a tool to help us better instruction, better the experience for our student, and still give us the chance to be the human in the classroom. So let's look at our last slide will be the 4 principles that it's actually from Ethan Mollick. He's at UPenn, and he kind of had this framework for use for guiding your AI use.
So always invite AI to the table. Make sure that you are the human in the loop. This is a huge, huge, huge part of effective use of AI in education. Assume that this is the worst AI that you'll ever use because it is changing so quickly. And treat AI like a person, but tell it what kind of person you want it to be.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for being with us. The ultimate, the last of the last. Down here to the end, if you have any questions or answers, or questions or comments or things that you wanted to further discuss with us, we have our emails on this last slide. We would love to discuss with you. I'm a UEN instructor. Amy's at State Charter Board. We're more than willing to do whatever we can to help our teachers. You are the people making differences in lives. And our students are about to be the innovators, the people who change tomorrow for us. And authentic education, authentic learning is something that can happen with the aid of all that we have now. I hope we can embrace it, not be afraid of it, embrace it, and find new ways to innovate with that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You get to hear